Okay, so I have them picked out. I only have one set showing because I'm probably only going to do my left hand on camera, and then I'll do my right hand off of camera, and I'll show you guys the finished, both hands finished. So what you do now, or at least what I do now, is I do use his system, which is a pre-nail, which is pretty much a pre-prep, which is just a dehydrator, then the primer, and then I use his 1, 2, 3 go press on gel to adhere the nail to my natural nail. This is probably going to get a little bit awkward, and I may not have it all in focus because once I place the nail on, I kind of hold it down with this, but once I get to my other fingers, oftentimes I will utilize holding the light in my mouth and angling the light towards my nails to get a good straight nail. I don't find that when I hold it down with another nail, I typically end up moving it. So we'll see. I will try my best to get this next part filmed and on camera so you guys can get an idea. So I go in with the dehydrator and I just touch it on, just a light little coat on all of your nails across the entire nail. This is just making sure that there's no lint or any residue from when you filed, or if you touched your hair or your face, it gets the oils off. It's an important part when you're doing your own nails, whether you're doing stuff like I am or you're just doing your own gel polish. Once you put your dehydrator on, don't touch your nail beds because it will cause lifting. Once that has been put on, I go in with the primer, and this you want to be careful to not get on your skin. This is just getting your nail ready for product to be put on it and allowing that bond to take place. So I went ahead and primed all of my nails. It's likely that I probably will have to prime again if I touch my nail beds, but hopefully I can refrain from doing that. So I'm going to start off with my thumbnail. These are pre-etched on the insides. If they weren't, you can do one of two things. You can take an e-file and rough up the inside of the nail with that, or you can do it chemically with a primer, or there's some products now that are listed to just etch the inside of the nails, but the primer does just as well. I've used the method of doing it chemically with a primer in the past before he was selling them pre-etched. So what I do is I paint a very thin layer on the nail where I know it's going to touch my natural nail, and then whatever glue is left over on the brush, I just swipe so there's a good bit to fill any gap between this nail and my natural nail. Then I always turn this on before I need to pick it up. I place it onto my nail, and you can see if you have enough glue on there or not. You will see it go up the nail, and then this is a flash cure. This is not fully curing the glue underneath. This is just freezing it as a flash cure so it doesn't move around until you can get your hand in a big lamp. So I always just kind of make sure the tip part where it can be seen is cured, and then I'll move my finger away and I will do the rest. If there's an air bubble, you kind of want to push that out. I have an air bubble in there and I don't think I'll be able to get it out, which these kinds of things happen sometimes. And this is why I typically use both hands to push down on the nail just to make sure it's got a solid cure rather than using my other fingernail. I'm just gonna wipe the excess glue that has kind of peeked out. So the bad thing about having an air bubble, which I was trying to get it out, but I can't. The bad thing about having an air bubble is, you know, that part of the gel tip isn't totally cured to your fingernail. There's nothing in that little section where that bubble is. If it's at a very important part, I would advise to take it off. I don't like to, once they're glued on, I don't like to peel them off right away because I don't have any protective layer underneath. So I will leave it. That risks that this nail may come off sooner. If that happens, depending on when it comes off, I will either put on a new one or I will re-glue this one on. I've had bubbles like this before and them really not affect the nail staying on. You don't want to have nail bubbles, air bubbles under them though. What this is coming from is a couple of things. My natural nail beds are pretty flat, so I need to make sure whenever I put these on that I put enough extra gel to fill the gap in between my natural nail and the gel tip. It really is a learning curve on your own nails on how much extra gel you need to fill that gap. I've been doing these for about a year and I still clearly make mistakes and mess up often. It's not the end of the world for me. So I'm going to continue on. So we're going to grab the next nail, and I guess I will demonstrate with this nail since I didn't before, how you size your nails to what full cover tip, whether you're doing just press-ons or it's a system like this. You want the nail tip from sidewall to cover your nail. If it's too small, if it's pinching your nail, or if you're really forcing your nail to be fitted on here, it's better to have a nail piece like this, the fake nail, to be bigger because you can file down the sides. I think a lot of why I like his brand is my nail beds are really small and I can always find tips that fit. With the Kiara Sky, that was part of the issue I had, was not all of the tips. I had to do a lot of modification to make the tips work, which is not the end of the world, but it's easier if you have a set that pretty much fits your nail and you don't have to do a whole lot too. So again, I'm going in and I'm just painting a little layer, a thin layer of the glue all over, and then I'm going to wipe off quite a bit of the excess into the back of the nail and kind of let it flow up. And then this one I may end up gluing on off of camera, like at a frame, because this is, I find when I try to use my other hand like this, it tends to go crooked, but I'll give it a shot just for the sake of the video. Once it's placed on, again, you just want to hold it down with some good pressure so it doesn't move, and then you want to freeze, flash cure, whatever you want to, whatever terminology you want to use. To get it onto your nail. And then after you flash cure everything, you do want to go in with a full cure under a big lamp before you do any extra filing or shaping of the nail. I will cut these down a little bit due to how I don't have a whole lot that I can file off. So this will be a longer set than what I typically would go for, which means I probably won't have this set on for very long. But we'll see once we get to that step. So I'm going to continue to try and get all of these done in frame. And if I find that I'm having too many struggles, I will probably pause this part of the video and finish them off camera. Oh no, it's a little crooked. For me, this is easier to hold my hand like this and use this hand and hold the nail down and hold the flashlight in my mouth. Like that. I don't know if my head was in frame or not, but when I do it that way, that method, it seems silly, but when I do that method, this nail has 0 air bubbles, whereas both this nail and my thumbnail, we're just trying to hold it with the other fingers, ends up with some air bubbles because I can't see to apply appropriate pressure. So I'm gonna go ahead and do these other 2 nails with you guys, and then I'll hop off and do the other nails and then come back and show you guys the filing part. And again, I'm just gonna set this on my nail and then all right, once it's kind of like freeze cured. I don't know what you guys are seeing when I'm doing that, but I don't want to mess up I don't want to ruin this whole set because I'm doing it in a method that I know doesn't work for me. So putting it on my nail and then holding the lamp in my mouth or on my neck. Typically I put it in my mouth, I'm not gonna lie. And holding it down with the pressure from this hand makes it to where it adheres perfectly. Like these last 2 nails are perfectly adhered. There's no air bubbles in them. I just feel I have more control that way. And again, I am not any kind of professional by any means. These are just methods that I have found work for me when I do my own nails. So I always like to place it on my nail with my hand flat just to make sure that I don't make it crooked, because when I pick up my hand like this, I can tend to move the nail and it be crooked. Okay, so I got a couple of air bubbles on my pinky nail. Not too many, they're pretty small. Since you're flash curing when you're using the little lamp, you do have a little bit of wiggle room where you can still kind of push around if it's not fully cured. So what I do now, once they are all glued on, all 5 fingers are glued on, I take my full-size cure lamp and I'll do a full cure. So I'm going to fully cure this hand, put all of the nails on this hand, and then I'll be back and we will file them. So we are just about done. Okay, so I am back. I have both sets are fully on, they're fully cured. So now I will do some filing. With these, the ones that he has that are pre-painted like this, it is airbrushed on. So if you buff on the colored part, it's going to take away what's already here. So I'm not really going to clean up around my cuticles too much. I tried to make sure that when I was having any seepage from the gel squeezing out, because sometimes that happens, I tried to wipe it away. There's a few nails that have a little bit of it. Honestly, if it's just a little bit, it kind of will wash away. If you have a whole glob of it, I do suggest filing it off, either hand filing it or with an e-file, because it will be the source of some of your lifting. So these all have a little tab at the very tip. I'm just going to file pretty much just from the length. I'm just going to hand file it down until I am comfortable with it. I would typically, what I would do is I would use my clipper that I have to clip off the excess length. The problem when I use this is it's not always straight, and sometimes it ends up crooked, and that will cause me to have to do more filing. So I am just gonna file all of these down to a length that I like. So I'm probably gonna file quite a bit, but enough to where it's still showing some of the white part. So I will stay here and do it with my pinky with you guys, just so you can see real time how long this is. It doesn't take too long. It really depends on the grit that you're using on your hand file. The more coarse, the quicker the file is gonna be. And I just hold my finger to where I can see it. Like for you guys, it would be like this, but I'm holding it for my perspective. Once I get a good bit of the length off to where I think I will be happy with it, I'm just going to slightly do the corners so they're not super sharp. Round off the corners a little bit. And I am not perfect when it comes to filing and shaping, but that's about as much as I'm gonna file off. So about half of the white that's showing, I'm gonna file down. So for sake of not making people sit through all that, I am going to continue filing all the fingers down to a length that I like, and then I'll come back and show you the final steps and what I do to my nails for them to last. So I will see you shortly. Okay, so I have filed down as much length as I can. The only thing that I don't about e-nail couture is their sport length or their mini length really is still quite long for someone like me who prefers to like hardly have any nail tip. I would prefer to like have the length of these even shorter, like half of what you can see. So what I will do is I like these, so I will leave these tips on, and as they continue to grow, so probably by the end of this week, beginning of next week, I will continue to file them down so they're comfortable for me. This is about the length where I find nails start to become uncomfortable. So once they start to really bother me, I will continue to file them down, and I will probably just paint them, paint a gel over them. But what I do once my nails are filed, I do want to mention, because this is something I don't see a lot of nail people mention, and whenever you file down on any kind of tip, usually you end up with like plastic or pieces still hanging on. I always take like a foamy buffer file and file that part off, because these are fine and they grip that and they pull it off, so you don't end up having little bits hanging from your tips. So once everything is filed down, if I wanted to put gems or rhinestones or anything like that, now would be the time you do so. I'm not going to. I'm going to have a very basic set. Like I said, I had intended of using these tips when I put out that poll. So what I do as a final step is I do a top coat. This again is from e-nail couture. I just find his products have worked well for me. They're decently priced. So I am going to just do a quick little coat of this on all of the nails, and then I will cure them and that is how I do my nails. I always try to do a pretty, and this is not going to really do much of anything to the nail. It's just going to seal it in, make it a little bit tougher, so if there's any scratches or anything, it doesn't affect the tip. It's just going to affect this top coat. So I do my thumb, and then I go in and I do the rest of my nails. So I'm going to let this cure, and then I'm going to do the other nails, do them all off camera, and then show you guys the final product. Alrighty, so I have top coated all of the nails. I always hit the tips of to encapsulate it all. So now that they are done, all I do is take some cuticle oil and hit my cuticles. And in closing, I just want to remind everybody, I am not a professional. This is just what I have found works for me, the products that I find work for me. I don't do my nails the way everybody else does theirs, but this is how I have found to do them. And typically my sets last, when I use full cover tips, they last 2 to 3 weeks. I've done acrylic once and they lasted like 3 weeks. They would have hung on longer if I let them. I've come to find a lot of this boils down to your nail prep. So just make sure you're prepping your nails to the best of your ability, and you're following the instructions for whatever products that you get. If you guys want more nail videos from me, let me know. I don't mind doing these occasionally. I am interested in doing the Kiara Sky tips against the Max Estrada E-Nail Couture brand tips, to see if now that I've learned how to do this a little bit better, if I will have the same experience with the Kiara Sky that I did before, or if it would be a better experience. If you guys are interested in that, let me know down below, and I will film it and do like a, I guess, vlog style, like along with me, because even when I used the Kiara Sky before, they lasted long enough. It was just getting the nails on and everything. Their system was a little bit, although it has the same steps, their base and stuff is different, and I didn't have the best experience with it, but I was able to get them to work. So if you want me to do a comparison video, let me know. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys being here today. This is the final set, and we'll see how long these last. They are longer. You can see from the underside better. They are a lot longer than I typically wear my nails, so it's likely that I will probably start filing these down probably by the end of this week, beginning of next week, and I may paint over them, or I may just leave them. We'll see how the growth goes. So I appreciate you guys for being here. Leave any suggestions down below, and until next time, bye guys.